Okay, looks like we're live. Good morning from St. Petersburg, Florida. Nice morning here. Um, it is August 24th, 2014. It's 9:39, 9:40 here in St. Petersburg, Florida. Let's check on the weather. Seattle, Washington, 60 degrees. Portland, Oregon, 60 degrees. Hayward, California, 64 degrees. Tokyo, Japan, 81 degrees. San Antonio, Texas, 79 degrees. Toledo, Ohio, 72 degrees. Los Angeles, California, 67 degrees. Denver, Colorado, 56 degrees. St. Petersburg, Florida, 85 degrees. Corpus Christi, Texas, 79 degrees. San Francisco, California, 59 degrees. Tampa, Florida, 84 degrees. Charlotte, North Carolina, 73 degrees. New York, 69 degrees. Santa Fe, New Mexico, 52 degrees. Hayward, California, 64 degrees. Santa Rosa, California, 58 degrees. Gaza, Egypt is what they're calling it. It might be Gaza, Israel. But anyway, it's 91 degrees. Tel Aviv, Israel, 91 degrees. Jerusalem, Israel, 91 degrees. Hilo, Hawaii, 73 degrees. And that's just a little bit of the weather going on around the world. Let's see what's going on in the chats. Well, it looks like the numbers in global revolution are starting to drop as the problems in Ferguson start to drop. That's what brought the numbers up as high as 1,000 in global revolution. People from all over the country, old occupiers and whatnot, and just it's bad news. It's bad. It'll bring the looky-loos. And so they had, good numbers for a while, but it looks like the party's over until something happens or explodes in, another part of the country. And if they're able to get their numbers up in time to catch it, then the numbers will go up. But right now they're 55. And personally, I'll be boycotting Global Revolution because I don't think they're really a revolution. I think they're just anarchists and liars and haters. They hate Jews. They hate gay people. They haven't said too much about Hispanics yet, but I'm sure that they will. They definitely hate Americans. Global Revolution is a chat that has people from all over the world inside of it. And basically, it's a chat room or channel that survives on hate, primarily the hate of the United States, the American people, the American government, anything American, our way of life. If you work for a living, we've talked about this before. You work for a living, you're a slave. You pay taxes, you're a slave. You own property, you're a slave. Anything that has anything to do with the American way. These anarchists, and that's what they are, anarchists, consider you an enemy. Consider you brainwashed and a sheeple, as they like to call it. But anyway, keep an eye on global revolution, but don't participate in the hate. That's just my opinion. Let's see what's going on. Dissenters, 4 viewers this morning. Dissenters is pretty much a channel that they cover. They aren't too serious about stuff. Not like Global Revolution. They aren't trying to make you think a certain way or get on a certain subject and try to make you join a group or anything like that. It's basically a free speech channel, and sometimes that free speech can get a little rank. So if you can't handle that, stay away from dissenters. But if you like free speech and you want to say whatever you want to say, you're welcome to say it there. They have the pencil which is that little pencil that you see, and that means that you don't have to log in. You can use any name you want, and once you click on the pencil, it'll have a little box up there that says nickname, and then you sign in any name you want, and you go ahead and say whatever you want, no matter how crazy it is, including death threats or anything that you want to say, no matter, like I said, how crazy it is. You can say it there because they are trying to allow free speech, and sometimes free speech can get pretty bad. So that's what Dissenters is about. And then you go over to Dissenters 5, which is owned and operated by Crusader 1954. Now, Dissenters 5 is a news channel, and Dissenters pretty much keeps it focused on news. It's not you won't find much chatting going on in this channel. What you will find is a lot of links of current events. So stop in. You could say hi to Crusader and some of her visitors. That's not to say that you can't chat in Crusader's channel. It just doesn't happen very much. And then of course we've got Artstarzz here, which my channel, our channel here at Artstarzz, really again isn't a chatting channel, although you can if you want to. I spend most of my time on the website, so I'm all over the place, and if somebody comes in and says hi, or every now and then when I'm doing a show, they'll talk to me. Right now I'm in Ustream, our channel in Ustream, because that's one of the ones that Citizen Stream notices. So when I go live, I'm there in Citizen Stream. So I don't chat too much. I kind of hate to type and read and all that. I just never have liked it. And so talking is my thing, and that's what I do. I talk, and I talk for about an hour, and then I shut up. So we'll go over to live global network news, which has 14, and global network news is pretty much what they say. They're about the news, and they comment on everything that they see. And again, 14 people. It's Sunday. A lot of people are in church, I guess, or doing whatever they do on a Sunday. Maybe they're out for a Sunday ride, went for a picnic somewhere. From the weather, it's kind of cool in most places, so it's perfect for a drive. Then we got other possibility network news, and there's 4 viewers in there. And other possibilities does what it says. They kind of cover the news, and they have a little chat, and then they do music, and sometimes they'll talk about cooking and pretty much homebody stuff. Cooking, hobbies, art, stuff like that. But they're not a hateful group, not like Global Revolution. And we'll get back to Global Revolution in a minute because I got a bone to pick with them. And then we've got Syria, Free Syria. Syrian Freedom is what it's called. And they've got 5 people in there, and they're what they say they are. They're all about Syria, trying to change what's going on in Syria. And as most Americans know, and people around the world, hundreds of thousands of people have been killed in Syria in this war, and they are trying to stop it. So that's what they do in Syrian Freedom. And then of course we've got our site chat, which it's, you could say whatever you want to say. You could post pictures if you want to. You can post links to videos and news stories, or just say hi, or it's a pretty open chat room. It covers the site. If there's anything that you'd like to see on the site, or make a complaint about the site, whatever, you can do it in our site chat. And then we've got Occupy Toronto, and there's one person in there, and Occupy Toronto is they're from Canada. Although it doesn't matter where people are, they end up discussing the United States of America, how awful we are. And that's pretty much what they do in Occupy Toronto, along with trying to school you on how to live stream. They talk a lot about live streaming and the techniques of live streaming, and like I said, most of the time, they'll be ragging on the United States of America. And that's just a quick look at the live stream channels that we have on artstarzz.com, and we call it Chatboxing Live Stream. We also have, let's check out Chatboxing Ustream and see if anything is live, and see how it's going in Ustream. That's where most of the action is. It's in Ustream, because it's a lot harder, a lot easier to hook your telephone up to Ustream. And Livestream has made it a little bit more difficult, and although it's cheaper to buy time on Livestream, it costs you like $50 a month for the cheapest channel on Livestream and $100 a month for the cheapest channel on Ustream. But all you're really getting when you pay is you don't have to listen to the commercials. So if you've got $100 or $50 you're not doing nothing with, and it's just burning a hole in your pocket every month, and you want a nice little hobby, I would suggest Ustream. But Livestream, it seems to get more traffic as far as chatters. It's easier to chat. I have all these multi-channels, but once you open up one chat room, then you can't open up any more. The only thing that you can use is Social Stream. So I've taken off the chat from our live stream channel. The last time I checked, there shouldn't be a chat there, and that's why I took it off. I like the chat, but once you open up any other chat, then you can't use all the other ones, so there's really no point in having the chat. Social Stream, when people come in and they type to Social Stream, then it goes all over the place, and it helps get or scatter the chatter more than just the site chat that keeps all of the conversation in one area. So not too much going on. Again, it's early. It's only just about 10 o'clock, short of 10 o'clock, 9:52 a.m. on a Sunday morning, and nothing going on yet. I think what's happening is as Ferguson dies down, Ferguson starts to come to an end, these chats are going to die way down. And like I said, Global Revolution was one that went up pretty high, and then a lot of these Ustream channels numbers were pretty high. So 55 is still good for Global Revolution. They are down to 53, dropped again. And when you go from 0 or like 5 to 53, that's pretty good. But I'm a firm believer that they were fudging on the numbers anyway. They figured out a way to cheat on these numbers, because you can do it, and yeah, I'm saying it. But the thing about Global Revolution is that there are people from all over the country who are, disgruntled Americans, a lot of them, and they've moved to other countries, and everything that the United States stands for is wrong. They're anarchists. They would like to see our government toppled, kind of like the Republicans, except for the difference between an anarch and a Republican is that the Republican wants to control the government and do what it wants to with it, which is take care of the rich. And the way that our system was supposed to work is that the government would take care of the rich, and the rich would take care of the poor. That's one of the things that the Republicans were supposed to do, but they didn't do it. And that's one of the problems that we're having with the Republicans now. So in theory, it's a good theory. In other words, the government will make sure that the rich are doing okay, that I guess nothing happens to them, or if they need the military because they're off doing business in another country, we're their strong arm, and they can call on the military to protect them. So they want to control that. And they also want to make sure that they don't pay very many taxes, and that the people pay the taxes. But see, that's not the government, that's not the rich taking care of the people. If the people have to keep paying higher and higher taxes. In other words, the 99% pay more of the taxes than the 1 or 2%. That's not taking care of the people. The government is taking care of the people, and the government is taking care of the rich. And it's not supposed to be that way if you're Republicans. It's only supposed to be one way or the other. Now, the Democrats feel that the government should take care of the people, and the rich can take care of themselves. There was times when the rich were in the 90% tax bracket. And there was a reason for it. They made so much money that if they got to keep 10% of their money, they were still filthy rich. But as they lowered them taxes from, 0 to 18, in a lot of cases, percent, because the way that they did it is they don't consider it an income. It's not an income. They are taxed for different reasons. Capital gains is one of the reasons that rich people get taxed, because they don't work. Their money makes money. They invest, make money. That's capital gains. That gets taxed. So when they start talking about taxing, they're talking about capital gains or property tax. They own a lot of property. They want to be taxed. But then there's loopholes. There's ways to get around the taxing. So what ends up happening is that the Republicans want to control the government and tax the people, the 99%. And they don't want to pay any taxes. They just want to be in control of everything. And then they want the people to go to other countries and fight for their interests. And say, that it's a threat. America is being threatened. Well, it isn't America that's being threatened. It's private industry in foreign countries that are being threatened. That they want the American people to go over there and fight and die for them. Now, I think that if the American... And then it's kind of a toss-up. It's kind of a toss-up. If the average American is doing pretty good, he's less likely to want to go off to war. But if you keep a certain part of the population poor, dependent on the only good job is the military, because I remember when I was young, military age, and discrimination was really high for Hispanics and blacks, and they would join the military because it was a job. Of course, once they got into the military, they were discriminated against too, but they would join the military. So the rich had its military to go off to Vietnam, to go off to wherever and fight, and didn't have to pay them very much, but still, it was a job. You were able to make money and send money home so that your family could survive. And if you had a family, then they could get military housing, and you could build a family. Then they promised you an education, and still there was discrimination once you got out. And if you tried to use your education, you were still discriminated against. So there was still a battle that had to be fought. But what they managed to do was to get the poor people to fight their wars. It wasn't about America. They're trying to do it today, except for we have a volunteer army. We had the draft. There was a draft where you were forced at a certain age to join the military and go fight for them, because they made it look like we were under attack, and Pearl Harbor helped them do that. 9/11 didn't work that way. They never did initiate the draft. 9/11 didn't help them initiate the draft. That's an act of Congress, and at that time the Democrats were in control. So an act of Congress to invoke the draft didn't happen. Now, they might invoke the draft now. And then, of course, the Republican kids would figure out a way to get exempt like they've done in the past. If you go to college, you're going to be exempt. And then, for the Democrats, if you had a family, you were like H5 or H2 or something like that. I forgot what it was. If you were married and had kids, or if
It's
you were
10
the only
o'clock.
boy in the family, you didn't have to fight in these wars. So there was exemptions for the poor people too, but there was plenty of poor people. Why? Because they created them, and then they had an army. Because it's not really hard to control a country if you've got a bunch of big corporations deciding if there's going to be jobs or not. One of the things that they did when President Obama first ran is they promised that if President Obama wins, unemployment would rise. Well, it wasn't that President Obama was going to cause the unemployment, they were going to cause the unemployment. So they had to threaten the working people that if they voted for President Obama, because they haven't figured out a way, they've worked hard, they haven't figured out a way to run this country without us being able to vote. They know that if they start taking certain things away, the whole country will just go crazy, like it does around the world. So, you got to give them credit. They're not stupid. They have to figure out a way to control us in a way that's peaceful, that we don't start freaking out and burning buildings like they did in Ferguson. Now, if you've got a whole nation like that, like in a lot of these countries, which are a lot smaller, so it's a little easier to have people go crazy on you. If just say 1 million people out of 316 go crazy in the United States, that's bigger than a lot of countries. You get 20 million, 25 million people pissed off in the United States. That's bigger than a lot of countries. So, they got to handle us in a way that they get what they want, keep what they have, and keep us happy, all in the same basket. It's a balancing act. But they managed to get filthy rich. They managed to do that and keep a lot of people very poor. But it's working its way around, and it has to go in cycles for some reason. Maybe it's because the old rich get old and the young rich come in, and while they're still young, they've got some compassion. Because all it takes is for something to happen to an individual, and that individual could turn on a whole race. In other words, if you're white and you're a kid, for example, and you were beaten up, like they say, Rick Scott was the governor of Florida. He came from I guess a poor background, and then worked his way up and got his way through, and then pretty much forgot about where he came from, other than the bad things. Maybe he was beaten up when he was a kid. He looks pretty white, and maybe he was abused by black people, and they have a way of discriminating and making it look like they're not racist, but they actually are. And there's a reason for it, if you want to call it a reason. So anyway, they control the people, and then the people join the military, and they fight for them. So what the Democrats try to do is make the government work for the people, and the rich can take care of themselves. But the rich want to control that army, that military. That's why when the military didn't want any money, the Republicans are dead set on giving them money, even though they didn't want it. We don't need it. We're not at war anymore. And the Republicans say, oh, yes, you do. And we are going to send you some money. Whether you want it or not, you have to take it. And the military, the Pentagon, is saying we don't need it. Well, President Obama knows what's going on, knows what they need and don't need. But the Republicans think if they take over, they don't want a military that's broke. They want a well-financed military. And pretty much that's what it's all about, controlling the people in such a way that the people think they're happy. Well, that's one of the things that global revolution tries to say, that you just think you're happy because they want you to think that way. So they go on with the hate America, hate people for working, hate people for going to school, hate people for voting, hate people, because you don't hate the way they do, because they feel that they know what's best. In other words, they just want to replace our government. They want to tell us how to think. And one of the ways that they try to do it is by telling us we don't know what we're doing, and they're the ones that know best for us. And if you watch Global Revolution, now, I say boycott Global Revolution, but I'm not saying don't watch them. Don't watch what they're doing. I'm just saying don't participate in what they're doing. Because all they're doing is spreading hate. They talk about uniting, and all they do is divide. If you go in there with a different point of view, they will divide you. And then in the same paragraph, they'll talk about uniting people. So boycott global revolution. It's an they're anarchists, and they're anti-American, they're anti-Jewish, they're anti-gay. And I've seen a lot of people go in there that are anti-black, anti-Hispanic, anti-women. And they stay there, spreading this hate. But if you go in there and you say you like President Obama, you like the way that America is, you like the way the country is, well, you're a fish out of water and you'll get banned. But if you go in there and you say things like, all Jewish people should be killed, or send those children back over the border to be killed, which, by the way, 5 of them were killed, according to Twitter. I haven't seen anything in mainstream media, but according to Twitter, 5 kids were sent back to Honduras, and they were murdered. But, that's 5 out of 50,000 or so. That's not to say, that that's a good thing, because 1 is too many. But 5 out of 50,000 plus that crossed over were sent back and murdered right away. This happened about 3 days ago. So it was in the Twitter zone. It hasn't worked its way into mainstream media, and I'm surprised about that. Or maybe it did, I just didn't hear it or see it. But one of the things that you would find in Global Revolution is to send them back. Send them back. And one of the things that you'll find in Global Revolution is the hate America. That it's important that you hate America because the American way doesn't work. Capitalism doesn't work. But they never say what will work, because they're anarchists. They want us to all use the bathroom in a bucket or in a river. They want us to do without electricity and cars. That's what they want us to do. They want us to go back 100 years, 200 years, and then start all over again. They want us to stop using the banks because they can't use the banks. But really what the truth of it is that a lot of times the things that they tell us not to do, they do. They don't want you to vote, but I'll bet you they vote. And I'll bet you they vote Republican. But if they can get people not to vote, and then they vote, they'll have what they want. They'll have exactly what they want. So they push really hard against anybody who comes in and talks about voting. Talks about exercising your rights. They only want certain rights, free speech, but they don't want free speech for you. They just want free speech for them. And that's what Global Revolution is pushing. They're anarchists. They want the government to disappear. They want to run things. They think that if there is no government, everything will be better. And that just shows how simple-minded they really are. They're able to think that the world would be better without the government because the government is here and it allows them to be that free. It allows them the safety of their opinions. And what I mean by that is that if there was no government, that would mean that there's nobody to protect them and their free speech. That would mean that anytime they said something in a chat, for example, or out on the streets, they protested, for example, the way that they do, that somebody, because they think that the cops are there to obstruct them, they don't quite get there. There's a lot of people that don't like them and mean them harm. So the police are not only there to make sure that it remains peaceful, the police are there to stop anybody from doing them harm, because there's a lot of people out there that think that what they're doing is wrong. Burning the flag, flying it upside down, saying the things they say about the United States and the people of the United States. There's people out there that don't like them. So they think that the police department is there to squelch them, because it wouldn't serve their movement if they said, well, you know, the police are here to protect us. If they did to a private citizen what they did to them cops in New York, for example, we're talking about Occupy now, Occupy Wall Street. If they did to a private citizen what they did to them cops in New York, or they even tried that in Ferguson for that matter, they'd get their asses kicked. And that's why a lot of them end up in jail and make it look like they're victims, when actually they're provocateurs. There's tons of video out there where they're marching down the streets saying, F the police, F the police. They say that to their face, and those cops have to be trained to take it. They're yelling in the face of these cops, and the cops are trained to take it. Well, what if there was no protection for them? What if there were no cops there to protect them? And they started to march down the street. Of course, now there's no government, so they'd all have to be armed. So that takes the peaceful thing right out of the picture. In order to do the kind of protesting that they do, they'd have to be armed. So they're no longer a peaceful movement. And they think the cops are there to squelch them, to take away their constitutional rights. They think that's what the cops are there to do. But like I said, if these anarchists were to get their way, which they never will, this country is too big, too set in its ways to let a couple of thousand people, and there is a couple of thousand people, if you took all of the protests throughout the country and put them together, you may get 10,000 people. You may. But if they had their way, they couldn't be peaceful. They'd have to arm themselves, because other Americans that don't like this would be there to fight them, just like in the old days, just like in gang wars today. They are able to peacefully cuss at a cop. They are able to take over streets, take over sidewalks, take over public buildings, take over parks, and say it's our right to be here. But every American knows every American knows that our rights stop where other people's rights begin. In other words, if you want to go to a park, that's okay, but you can't take over the park. Gangs in certain parts of the country do that. That's their territory, so that they can do their business, sell their drugs and whatnot, whatever their business is. They take over parks. And if you go into that park and you even look like you're part of another gang, you stand a pretty good chance of being killed. Is it their right to be there? Yes, it is. It is their right to be there. Is it Occupy's right to be there? Yes, it is. It is their right to be there. But when their rights stop me from going there, just like what we're seeing with guns now, people are carrying rifles into McDonald's. I mean, that's ridiculous. But it's really nothing new, because when the hunting season is around, a lot of people take their rifles in so nobody steals them. Not to demonstrate your right to bear arms, but to make sure nobody steals your rifle. That's why they did it. But today, everybody wants their rights, but they don't want to vote. They want to be able to carry a gun, take over a park, take over a public building, take over a public street, take over a public sidewalk, take over public property, but they don't want to vote. And that's what Global Revolution pushes. Don't vote. Don't vote. Well, right now I'm looking at 53 viewers, and maybe it's stuck, but if it is, it's the only one that's stuck. And they don't want you to vote. So 53 people in there, if you go in there. Right, currently now they're talking about Jews. And nobody of any kind of authority in that chat is saying anything about it. But if you go in there and you say, I like President Obama, you'll be banned. I like the government, you'll be banned. I like this country the way it is, you'll be banned. But if you go in there and you say you hate Jews and you wish they were all dead, you could stay. If you go in there and you say, them cops were right, you might get some pushback, because it's the cops. And anything to do with the cops, oh no, they got to hate the cops no matter what. Right or wrong, they got to hate the cops. That's what they do. But you can hate a Jew. And you can say that those kids that were crossing the border should go back. You could support Clive Bundy. You could support a sniper sitting on a road pointing a rifle at federal agents and not get banned. You can do all that in Global Revolution, because they're anarchists. They're anti-American. The guy that cut the head off of that journalist in Syria or wherever it was, I really don't remember where it was, but we all know fully. His head was cut off by an English speaking, and I don't mean America. I don't mean that kind of English speaker. Somebody from England or the United Kingdom. London, I think they've even got the accent down to a London accent. Cut the head off of that journalist. And one of the things that you can do in Global Revolution is that you can go in and talk about that sort of thing, but you can't talk about anything positive as far as America goes. They blame America, United States of America, for ISIL. They blame America for that They said, well, if we would have done something a long time ago, we wouldn't have this problem. Well, where are the people of the Middle East? First of all, them people are from the Middle East. You know, I think they're saying there's 17,000 ISIL soldiers. 17,000. And they feel that it's the United States' responsibility to stop them. They don't have no responsibility to stop them. It's the United States. So in global revolution, that's something that the United States did, because anything that happens in the world, they will turn it into a problem of the United States, the people of the United States. They did the same thing in Gaza. They said that Israel is a puppet of the United States and that Israel created Hamas. Now, you could say all of that in global, but if you say, that the President of the United States did a good thing with health care, you'll get banned. And I'm serious. They don't want to hear anything good because it's a hate channel. It's a hate channel. And that's why I say boycott them, but don't ignore them. Boycott them, but make sure you keep your eye on them. It's that old saying, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. Yes, I would say that the people of global revolution are enemies of the United States. They aren't trying to make our country better. They aren't trying to make changes to make us better. They are trying to overthrow the government for their reasons, so that they could live the life the way they want to live it. But they don't quite understand what would happen if we didn't have the government to protect them. They don't understand that. And it's not that they're naive. It's not that they're stupid. They just think that they can lead better than the people leading now, which is in itself ridiculous. They can't even lead a chat. When Occupy Wall Street was at its height, and they would have their GAs, as they were called, their General Assemblies, they couldn't even come together on anything. It was the dumbest thing I'd ever seen. They were the worst example of any kind of governing, and that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to govern themselves. They wouldn't admit that's what they were trying to do, but that's what they were trying to do. They were trying to govern themselves. And it was hilarious, to watch him. And that's when I started to turn away. I was always a witness. That's what I considered myself when all of this started 3 years ago. People would say, well, what are you doing here? If you don't support this, what are you doing here? I said it then and I'll say it now. I'm a witness. I'm a witness to this. I'm a witness to Gaza. I'm a witness to Ferguson. I'm a witness to Afghanistan. I'm a witness to Africa. That's what I'm doing here. I'm a witness. No, I don't agree with a lot of stuff, but I will witness it. I will witness it. And the things that I want, like a stronger America, a freer America, a more equal America, I will participate in that. And the way that I participate is I vote. And I will tell people to vote. Vote for change. Be part of the change. Vote. That's what I would do. I wouldn't just want the government to be shut down like the Republicans do. And then anarchists take it one step further. They say they don't like Republicans, they don't like Democrats, they don't like independents, they don't like anybody who votes. That's what global revolution is about. And I'm a witness. And that's why I'm there. And when I see somebody saying stuff that isn't true, I speak up, like Martin Niebler says. They came for the Jews, and I did nothing because I wasn't a Jew. Well, if you don't do anything about global revolution and you just let them grow, of course they're not going to, because there's just not that many stupid people in the country or in the world. But that doesn't stop them in the same way it doesn't stop a gang, a neighborhood gang, the Ku Klux Klan, skinheads, neo-Nazis, white supremacists. They don't get stopped because there's only 40 or 50 of them. That doesn't stop them because they have a small number. So you have to be aware that they're there. You have to witness. You have to see what's going on so you know what you're fighting. I seriously considered taking Global Revolution off of our website. I have in the past, but other people watch them, and I realized, well, you have to see who your enemy is, and an anarchist is an enemy. A Republican, they feel like the enemy, but basically they're not. They're just a bunch of people who want different things. At least that's what they think. They really don't know that they're being duped. In other words, they don't want to pay taxes for some poor black mother to get, and it's just like that. That's what they think. Poor black mother to get food stamps for their little black baby. Or some Mexican mother coming here from another country and getting some kind of medical attention for their little Mexican baby or Honduras baby. Hispanic, yeah, you might as well say it. It's Hispanic. Some Hispanic getting some kind of social service. The Republicans don't want that, and neither do anarchists. Anarchy is a white thing, and you might squeeze your way in there if you're black or Hispanic, but anarchy is basically a white thing. White people saying that government is bad. Now the Republicans, the average Republican, thinks that the federal government is bad and that the states should have powers. Ferguson is a perfect example of what happens when a city and a state has its own rules and its own powers. That's what Global Revolution wants to see. But then when it happens, they're all freaked out about it. You get what you want, then you freak out about it. And they make it look like the cops are part of the government. Those cops are no part of the government any more than they are. Those cops are racists, and they work for certain people. The Democrats ain't even Democrats in Missouri. They have the Democrat name, but Missouri is a red state. And that's what happens when you let a red state go on its own for too long. It's kind of like a roach problem. If you don't get after them roaches right away, as soon as you see one. Of course, they're so big here in Florida that if you see one, that doesn't mean there's a bunch someplace else. But in Colorado, if you see one little roach, chances are there's a bunch someplace else. But here in Florida, they're so damn big, I don't know if they eat each other or what. But if you see one, you're not in danger. And then I don't know the difference between a roach and some of these other bugs here. They're so damn big, some of them. But if you don't get after them right away and stop them right away, and pretty much that's what they're doing in Ferguson, is the federal government is getting involved. Federal government got involved in George Zimmerman in that area there that has been prejudiced for a long, long time. White people and black people segregated. Black people staying really poor, while there's poor white people and poor black people fighting each other. And then you get a cop who gets a job who hates black people anyway. If you're a cop in these poor cities, it's not like being a cop in the big city. These cops in these poor cities probably couldn't get a job in a big city like Denver or Los Angeles or New York. Some of the bigger cities in the country. These cops couldn't get a job there. While we have discrimination in these places in our police departments, they hide it better. They're more organized about it. Where these guys just think, I'm a cop, I can do anything I want. And they did. Their revenue was coming from giving people tickets. Whether you deserved it or not, that's where their revenue was coming from. That's how they were making their money to run their city. So what kind of people do you hire to do this kind of dirty work? The kind of cops you have in Ferguson. So then you get global revolution all freaked out about these cops. How these cops are. What these cops are doing. Jumping up and down and saying, see what we mean? We've been trying to warn you about this sort of thing. They take this little thing. 316 million people in the United States, and they take this little thing and they magnify it for their own personal use. Not to make it better, but to make their organization more credible. Not to solve the problems of the world, but to make their organization more credible. And they are becoming an organization. Like I said, right now they're at 53. The number is stuck at 53. It may be more. It may just be stuck. But I've been watching it and it's not moving. 53. That's what it is. But it's dropped down from, 700, 1,000 to 100. And that shows you that the people were just coming there for the show. Coming there to spread their hate. Kids coming in, and mom and dad ain't around, so, we could say whatever we want, and we're going to say this. We're going to use whatever filthy words come out of our mouth, and nobody can do anything about it. And in global revolution, they don't do anything about it. As a matter of fact, they encourage it. They encourage it by halfway saying the things, getting the ball rolling, and then not stopping it when it starts to roll really good. But if you say something good about the United States, you say something good about the government or anybody in the government, you say anything good about a corporation, you say anything good about what the corporations do good, because not all of them do bad, you'll get banned. But if you hate Jews, or you hate little kids crossing the border, you can come and hang out in Global Revolution. What does that say about what is supposed to be a peaceful movement? And then they do the same things that skinheads and neo-Nazis do. We've got to unite. We've got to unite. Yes, they do. But they aren't talking about uniting everybody. They're talking about uniting like thinkers from all over the world. Haters. They're basically doing what ISISL is doing. They're supporting hate. That is their tool. Hate. And what is a common goal for a lot of people? Hate America. The anti-American. That's what they do. And, it works because there's a lot of people out there that this world isn't working for them. This world isn't working for them, and they hate. They're kids. Maybe dad was a little hard on them. Told them to clean their room. So they go into global revolution, and they join these people in hate. But they're really not soldiers. They pretend they are. They pretend they're doing something. Just like a video game. They pretend that they're doing something. That's what they do, and that's what they're allowed to do in global revolution. I'd say that some of the older people, and you could pretty much count them on one hand, are in their 40s and have been miserable all of their life. They never ever talk about anything good in their lives, ever. This small group. They just talk about hate. They drop links of how things are going bad. That's what they do. And they do it all day long. And if they get a certain number, well then they're easily found in live stream directory. So not only boycotting global revolution, contacting Livestream and informing them of this hate channel may be the way to go. Getting them shut down may be the way to go. And I say maybe because I don't think they should be shut down. And the reason that I don't think they should be shut down is because we got to know where they're at. We got to know what they're thinking and how they're thinking it. And if they're willing to put it out in the public for us to see it, it's important that we witness it. It's important that this hate does not go underground and get roots and get stronger. It's better to see them. It's better to see them above ground. It's better to witness. And that's why I watch Global Revolution. Because, well, there may be 50 people talking like that. There are millions in the United States thinking like that. But they have too much to lose. So they can't say it. They don't want to be part of anything that's going to make them lose their job, for example. If they're a cop, you can't be like this and be a cop. Cops' free speech is limited. If you're on a job and you work for the government, your free speech is limited. You can't say anything you want wherever you want to, whenever you want to. You can't. You'll lose your job. You have the right to say it, they have a right to fire you. That's the way it works. And then you can go to court and you can fight them and you can say, well, they discriminated against me. And that's the thing about these people, is that they don't want to be discriminated against, but they want to discriminate. They want free speech for themselves, but they don't tolerate free speech. And that's what happens in global revolution all day long, 24 hours a day, because there's people in different time zones around the world. The people who own this channel are from Spain. They're not Americans. That's why it's global revolution. But a lot of the people that go in there are English-speaking Americans. Why do I say English-speaking Americans? Because not all Americans can speak English. That's the nice thing about America. You don't have to be an English-speaking person to live in America. Back in Denver, I knew a lot of Americans that couldn't speak English. They could only speak Spanish, but they were Americans. That's the way America works. That's one of the things they want to stop. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on organizations like Global Revolution. Keeping an eye on people like Rise PDX. I'd say that Rise PDX is pretty much the only one that has to be witnessed, because he feels what he feels deep in his heart. He feels this way. Other people are just followers because they're disgruntled. But Rise PDX feels this way, and it's important to follow the Rise PDXs of the world and see what they're up to. See how influential they are. Which, in the case of Global Revolution, Rise influences possibly a handful. The people that came in those large numbers were coming for the dog and pony show, the circus that Ferguson and Gaza. And the numbers weren't even that big when Gaza was at its height, and they were hating on Jews. It wasn't that big. Not like when Ferguson took hold. The black and the white fight, that number got really big. And because the problem was in the United States, people from all over the world were coming to hate. So that's why it's important to witness. It's important to watch all of these channels. It's important to scan Twitter and Facebook and find them. And if you feel like it, fight them. Fight them with your words. Vote. Vote against them. That's why I witness. I'm Artstarzz. It's Sunday, August 24th. It's 10:40 a.m. And that's just my opinion. So you have a good day. If you feel like it, like I said, fight them with your words. Vote. But witness. Witness what they're doing. See where they're at. Know where they're coming from. Know how they think. Witness. I'm Artstarzz. Have a good day.